Welcome to Beaver Builder's Page Builder course. This course is all about making you a Beaver Builder power user. I love how Beaver Builder makes building sites fun and easy, and that's allowed me to be more creative and more productive. It's WYSIWYG! That means you get to see your design work happening the way it will look on the front end of your site. It's so fun! We're going to start with the very basics, like how to download the Beaver Builder Page Builder plugin and how to upload it to your WordPress site. We'll take a tour of the Beaver Builder Page Builder interface and learn all about how to build page layouts and utilize templates. I'll show you how Beaver Builder's responsive design interface works so you can make your sites look great on every screen size. Finally, I'll show you how to save and reuse page templates, columns, rows, and modules. I'm going to show you how to export your saved content so you can import saved content into different websites. With tools like Beaver Builder, web design is a fun and liberating artistic outlet and a fantastic career path. So let's go have some fun creating web pages with Beaver Builder's Page Builder. Let's install the Beaver Builder Page Builder plugin Pro version. First, download the plugin zip file from your account page. From the sidebar of your WordPress dashboard, navigate to Plugin and Add New. Then upload the plugin zip file that we got earlier from your Beaver Builder account page. And be sure to activate the plugin. You'll need to enter your license key so you can get updates. You'll find your license key back at your account page. A lot of what we do in this course is going to be exercises where I'd like you to build things along with me. So in case you don't have a development instance or you don't want to work on pages off of your own site, I'm going to show you how to utilize Beaver Builder's demo sites. So you can access those demo sites at demo.wpbeaverbuilder.com. Or from Beaver Builder's site, just click up here where it says demo. And the first thing that we'll see when we click on the demo is a series of tooltips. So you can go ahead and check those out. And basically what I'm going to do in this video is just go over the same things that those tooltips point out, but elaborate on them. So diving into the templates is a really good way to learn, and you can just kind of poke around at the different ones and reverse engineer them. You can also click on this blank template, and that'll let you just quickly wipe the slate clean so you can start with a blank canvas. So let's tour the workspace together. Click on the little plus sign up in the upper right hand corner of the screen, and we'll take a quick look at the different modules available to us. And modules are basically all of our page content. So modules are things like text, photos, videos, icons. Well, you can see for yourself all this stuff here. A good way to get a feel for the modules available is to check out what's on the template pages. And there's a couple companies like Ultimate Add-ons and Power Pack add-ons that will give you extra modules to use with Beaver Builder. And you'll see if we click on the drop-down menu that you can also add WordPress widgets. And once you've dialed in the settings on your module on the page, then you can save the settings and access that saved module from here. And next up is the Rows tab. And rows and columns go hand in hand. Rows are what you put your columns inside of, and you can't have one without the other. So from the top level of this tab, we just have a bunch of different configurations for columns. We can also access a tab with pre-built content. And once we've built content, we can save it here too. And these last two tabs, templates and saved, are pretty self-explanatory. Save's just another place to access all the content that you've custom made. So let's just add a little bit of content to the page so you can see what I'm talking about in context. So I'm going to drag a text editor over here, and you'll see that when you add a module to a blank spot on the page, it's automatically going to nest that module in a column and a row. And then all three of these things have a series of action buttons. The row and module settings are accessed from the wrench icons, and the column settings are accessed from this drop-down menu here. The settings are probably the main thing that you're going to be accessing from the action buttons, but there's other things you can do, like you can duplicate rows, columns, and modules. You can delete them and drag them around and do all kinds of stuff, so just play around with that. I'm going to create a button module here, just so we can take a peek at the settings. And you'll find that the settings on different types of modules will vary depending on what type of module it is, but they're for the most part the same with different color, size, alignment, that type of thing. All right, let's move on and talk about the Tools tab. A couple things I use a lot in the Tools tab are saving templates and accessing the responsive editing view. And this is also where the revision history lives. Now let's go to our dashboard to check out some settings I think you might want to know about. This is going to look a little bit different on the demo site, but I'm just going to show you this from one of my sandboxes. So from your WordPress dash, there's a tab on the side that says Beaver Builder, and there's a bunch of settings there that are worth checking out. And then also under your settings tab down at the bottom, you'll see Beaver Builder, and you'll want to check these out too. So you don't have to see all of your modules. That's one thing that you can change, but if you want to use Beaver Builder on your blog posts, you'll have to actually enable that here. So go ahead and poke around in there and see what's available to you. If you are working on the demo site from Beaver Builder, navigate to your customizer, set your homepage to be a static page, and make that static page this one that says Builder Demo Page. And that way it'll be easy for you to access that page to do exercises on. All right, let's start by creating a blank page. Now add an icon to your page. I'm going to pick a star. I'm going to make my star this nice red magenta color. So now we have 3 nested items. We have this star icon, and you can access the settings here at the wrench that says icon settings. The icon is sitting in a column, and you can access the column settings from this drop-down menu. And the column is sitting in a row. And here's how you get to the row from this wrench here. So click on your row settings wrench, then click on the style tab, and we're going to add a border to our row. Still under the style tab in our row settings, we're going to add a background color to our row. Now I'm going to open up my icon settings style tab to align my star center and make my star bigger. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now back in the row settings tab, I want to point out that this is a fixed width row. So it's set up to be a certain amount of pixels, in this case 1100 pixels. And now let's just take a second to play around a little bit with these margin values. So if we click that little chain link, it locks up the values to all be equal. And we can just move this slider, unlink them, and change different sides to different stuff. Just play around with it and experiment a little bit. And you saw how the margins control the outside of our border, and the padding is going to control the inside here. So just play around with it a little bit. Now let's remove our border, and we're going to make this a full width row. You can also click on these question marks for tooltips about fixed width and full page width rows and columns. So now when we take the margins off of this row, it will go all the way across the page. So Since we don't have a background color set for our column, we're just seeing the blue of the row. So let's set a background color for our column. And let's also add a border to our column. Now that we have a border and a background color on our column, it's going to be really easy to see what's going on with the margins and padding. So just like we did with the row, let's just kind of noodle around and have fun with the margins and padding and experiment to see what happens when we change the dials. So here we have all these page elements nesting within one another. From the inside out, we have a module, which is inside of a column, which is inside of a row, which is inside of the page. So I'd like us to tinker around with these things from the inside out, and that'll give you a feel for how they interact with one another. So starting here with the margin of the module, you can see that if we increase the margin, then it will give us more green space. And this icon module is nesting within a column. So open up the column settings and experiment around with the padding a little bit, and you'll see that it does the same thing that changing the margin of the module did. It increases the green space. Now the exact same principle is true regarding the column nesting within the row. When we dial up the margin of our column, it gives us more blue space. And now as we open up our row settings, we can see that adding more padding to our row will also add more blue space, just like adding a margin to the column did. So now the row is reaching the end of the nesting objects, and if we add more margin to the row, then we're just going to see more page space. The terminology behind how all this works is called the box model. It's a core concept in web design and an important part of Beaver Builder page layouts. Now we're going to work on page layouts. The first layout we're going to create is going to be a 3-column row with a background image. And I picked out this image from Unsplash, so I'm just going to download it and upload it to my WordPress media library. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to get these 3 text boxes up here just to illustrate how this works. So go to your Rows tab and drag a 3-column row onto your page. Now we're going to open up our row settings and we're going to add a background photo to this row. And that's under the Style tab. Down here it says Background, select Photo, and then I'm going to select the photo that I downloaded from Unsplash. And there it is. I want to adjust the height of this row to show a larger chunk of the picture. And we have the option to show the full picture or a minimum height, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in 400 pixels. Now let's add a text module to each of our columns. And I'm just going to use a few Mark Twain quotes for placeholder text. Then we'll open up the column settings and we'll make the background of each of the columns white. Now, just for demonstrative purposes, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and show you a different way to do this. And this will also illustrate how to add, delete, and duplicate columns. And this little X here is going to delete our module. So now we're just left with an empty column. So we can click this X and it will delete the empty column. Or we can delete the module and the column in one step by selecting Delete Column from this drop-down menu. So now I'm going to rebuild the other two columns to the right just by duplicating this one that already has a white background and then replacing the text inside the text modules. So to duplicate a column, just select Duplicate Column from this drop-down menu. And a lot of times this workflow works good by duplicating columns because you don't have to enter the settings over and over again. Now let's open up column settings and we'll tidy this up. We'll start by equalizing the height of the columns and then we'll add a little bit of margin around the outside of each column. Next, I'm just going to reduce the opacity to the backgrounds of the boxes. And this is done with an opacity slider in the color settings. And now I can just copy and paste this color code into the other two columns. So everything that's in this space that has the background image is on the same row, but we can create more than one layer on a row. So I'm going to do that now by selecting Move Column, and I'll just drag this down here, and now you can see we have two layers on this row. And if I drag this column off of the row that it's currently on, it will create a new row. Okay, let's just put this back where it was, and we can delete the empty row. Now let's use the Duplicate Action button to duplicate this row. And we'll delete the two outside columns. Now I'm going to show you how to do this kind of funky little design using negative padding. So give your row a pretty hefty right-hand margin. I'll go with 350. Now open up your column settings and give your column a nice big left-hand margin. Now we're going to enter a negative right-hand margin. All right, now we'll just stylize this a little bit. We'll give it a display font. Dial up the size a little bit. I'm going to make this white text on a black background. So I think that's a really helpful little trick to know about, that you can use negative padding and margins when you need to, or you want to make a design decision like that. Something else I do quite often is add an overlay to row background images. And usually the reason I do this is if I'm going to be adding text to a column that doesn't have a background. That way you can still see the text good over the image. Something else I'd like to show you is nesting columns inside of other columns. All you do is just drag the columns you want to nest inside of the columns you want to nest them within. So you might want to nest columns if you wanted to use like a bunch of different background colors. And then you'll be given this option for parent settings. And the smaller nested column will be accessed under the regular column settings button. And in the margin and padding video, we went over fixed width versus full page width rows. But here's that setting. And that's something good to know about. Resizing columns is easy. Just drag the handles here or open up column settings and you can enter a percentage. The module that I use more than anything else in Beaver Builder is the text editor. So from the Modules tab, let's drag a text editor onto our page. And we'll want some dummy text to work with. So I'm going to go get some from loremipsum.io and paste it into my text editor. Okay, now I'm just going to break it up a little bit. So now I'm just going to select a little chunk of text, and from this drop-down menu up here, we can change it to different levels of heading or back to paragraph text. So play around with this a little bit. We can bold, italic, change the color. We can change the size, the alignment. And let's add a link. And this gear here, that's how you access the link settings. So if you want your link to open in a new tab, just click that checkbox. And this button here toggles the tools visible, so if you're not seeing both rows, you can just click that. I'm going to add a few lines of paragraph text here just to show you about how the visual tab differs from the text tab. So see here under the text tab, everything's listed as HTML, but also if I write a line of text and press return, it doesn't add any space between the lines like it does in the visual tab. Now let's move on to the Styles tab, and this is going to stylize everything on the module, not just chunks of it. So if we change the color, that's going to override colors that we've set for little pieces of the text. So the best way for you to learn what's available to you is to just poke around and experiment. And all these fonts here in Beaver Builder are coming from Google Fonts, so let's go browse fonts over at fonts.google.com. And we have a lot of fonts to choose from. We can sort by category. And click on any of these options and we can see how many variants that font has. So this one, Open Sans, has a ton of variants available. And variant means light, bold, italic, that type of thing. We talked about these little screen icons in the responsive design lesson, and you'll notice that if we click on that, the options change. So the options are just reducing down to what can be set for unique screen sizes. Let's look at some of the other modules that are available to us. So let's poke around in some of these template files to see what's available to us. I'm going to select this one down here, Grand. Now we can just click on some of the different page elements to see what they are and what the settings look like. So here's a call out, which is basically looking like an icon, a heading, and some paragraph text. And I think a good approach is to just play around with these things and see what they do. And these are more callouts, so it looks like we can select an image instead of an icon for callouts. Here we've got an accordion list. Testimonial box. Well, I think you get the point. We can learn so much just by clicking around in this pre-built content, and it's not just the template files, but also the pre-built rows. So I'm going to wipe everything off my page with this blank template and load a pre-built row. You might remember adding images to our pages in previous lessons using background images, and here's another way to add images, which is with the photo module. And in web design lingo, this is called an inline image. So there's a couple reasons that you might want to use one or the other. They behave differently on the page. And also images like this that are inline can be tagged, so they'll show up in Google Images. So these inline images will work better for SEO purposes. So if you want to do more research on that, you can just search inline images versus background images. Now let's play around with this button module. And there's also a group button module that comes in handy if you want to add several buttons in a row. So I'm just going to fiddle around with this, and you can do the same. Something I really like to do is add icons to my buttons. And of course you can change the color and the hover color. You can change the border. And I don't really have any direction I'm going in with this. I'm just fooling around with it. And by default, these buttons will conform to how much text you have inside of them, but then you can set a custom width, which comes in handy sometimes. Well, I think I'm going to wrap this up now, but I'd like to show you a couple resources before we go. There are a couple of vendors that make more modules than page templates that you can buy. This one is Ultimate Add-ons. And there's another one, it's called Power Pack. So I thought you might want to know those are available to you. And I also wanted to tell you about this blog post on the Beaver Builder blog, The Ultimate Guide to Beaver Builder Modules. Beaver Builder has a bunch of cool features that help us make sure our designs are going to look great on mobile and tablet, not just desktop screens. And there's built-in responsive behavior that's going to make your site look good automatically on devices, but we also have a lot of flexibility when it comes to making customized responsive designs. Click on the Tools tab and then select Responsive Editing. Responsive editing mode helps us quickly scroll through the different screen sizes so we can see how our design will look on different screen sizes. Another way to access responsive editing mode is with these little screen icons that you'll see throughout your column, row, and module settings. So as you toggle through the different views, you can enter a unique setting for each different screen size. So let's dive into doing a hands-on exercise so you can see exactly what I mean. For starters, I'm going to clear everything off the page by loading the blank template. Now I'm going to grab some pre-built content by clicking on Rows. Then under Pre-built Rows, I'm going to select Content. And this is the content we're going to be working with, Content 16. So go ahead and drag it onto your page. So now let's take a peek at what the different screen sizes look like. Let's start here with this H3 tag. And here's a little screen icon, so I'm going to click on that, and that toggles it into tablet view. And any of the functions with that little screen tab can be made into unique styles for tablet and phone views. So let's make this align left. And the style and spacing and text shadow isn't something that we can control for the tablet and phone views. And we can see that because there's no picture of a screen next to it, which means that all three screen sizes share the same styles. But margins is something that we can set to unique values. And this goes for modules, columns, and rows. All those things can have unique values for all three screen sizes when it comes to margins and padding. Okay, I'm going to select this next text module, and I'll align this left as well. I'd like to make this photo span all the way across the screen, so that's done under column settings. So right here under width, I need to set that to 100%, and that will make it go all the way across. So for instance, if I set it to 50%, it would only take up half of the space. That's how that works. Now let's switch over into mobile view, and we'll make some adjustments on how this is going to look on small screens. I think I'll make this heading align center on small screens. And let's check out the margins. I'm going to add a little bit more top margin. These margins are reading out as 0, but if I toggle once, then they'll show the actual value, which is 20. Okay, there we go. That's a little bugaboo. And now I'm gonna go ahead and increase this just a little bit. I'd like to center this paragraph text and give it more space by increasing the line height. So I think you get the point. Any place that you see those little screen icons, you can tweak the design and make it unique for the different 3 screen sizes. If you want to change the breakpoint settings for what is considered a small and medium screen, that's under Global Settings and down here under Responsive Layout. Something else that comes in handy is the ability to hide and show rows, columns, and modules on different device sizes. So for example, I'm going to set this text module to only show on small devices. So now it no longer displays on desktop and tablet view. This lesson is about how to save and reuse page templates, rows, columns, and modules. So let's start with page templates. To save the full page layout as a template, click the Tools tab and select Save Template. Name your template and hit Save down at the bottom of the screen. Save templates are accessed from the Templates tab under the drop-down menu option Saved Templates. Now let's save a row. Click on the Row Settings wrench, then select Save As. Enter a name for your saved row and click Save. Saved rows can be accessed from the Rows tab under the Saved Rows option on the drop-down menu or from the Saved tab. Saving columns and modules is accomplished in the same way that we just saved a row. So to save a column, we're going to open up our column settings, click Save As, enter a name and hit Save. And there it is under our Save tab. We can also access it from the Rows tab under Saved Columns. Now let's save a module. And we're going to do that the exact same way we saved the row and the column. But this time I'll make the settings global. That means that when I make changes to the saved module, it's going to change every place that I have it on my site. And you can tell that it's global because of the yellow action buttons and border instead of the normal blue color. Let's check out how globally saved content works. So let's change the color green here and we'll make it a darker green color. So now every button that we have on our site that we've added using this green button saved content will change to a darker color. Any stylistic changes we make will change site-wide. Now let's check out how to add this content to a different website. Beaver Builder has this really cool tool called Assistant Pro, and it lets us share WordPress assets over a cloud network. And you don't even need to be using Beaver Builder to use Assistant Pro, but it's especially cool with Beaver Builder sites. You can get a free basic account at assistant.pro. And once you have an account, here is what the back end of the cloud app looks like. One of the features I especially love is the community. You can grab design assets here that people have shared, and you can share your own design assets too. So how it works is you install a plugin that gives you the sidebar on all the front-end pages and posts of your site. So I'm going to take a page template off of this site and stick it on one of the demo sites at wpbeaverbuilder.com. So first I'm going to sign in here so that it links up to my cloud account. Now I'll go back to my other site and I'm going to create a library to put this template inside of. So I can stick the US President's page template onto the cloud through the Content app here, and it's saved under Templates. So I just need to select that library from the drop-down menu here. Now I'm going to go back to my other site and find that library in my Assistant sidebar libraries app. So here it is, and here from the Create New menu, I'm selecting Create and Edit. So that's how you share page templates between sites. And that same process goes for saved rows, saved columns, saved modules. And you can also share a whole bunch of other stuff using Assistant Pro, like post pages, WooCommerce products. It's a really helpful tool. And we have a free course on that as well. So if you're interested, check it out.